On Christmas Day, my husband slapped me and accused me of infecting him with an STD in front of my entire family. The sound of my husband's palm connecting with my face echoed through the dining room like a gunshot, silencing 23 people mid-conversation. My mother's fork clattered. My father half rose. Brandon's mother gasped so loudly I heard it over the ringing in my ears. But what made my stomach drop, what seared itself into my memory forever, wasn't the physical pain blooming across my cheek. It was the words Brandon screamed next, his face twisted with rage I'd never seen before, his finger jabbing toward me like a blade. "You gave me chlamydia. You disgusting cheater." Can you imagine? What would you do when your entire world shatters like that, live on stage in front of everyone you love? Let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. How the most important holiday of my life became the day everything shattered. My name is Simone Richardson, and 6 hours before my husband humiliated me in front of both our families, I was happy. Genuinely, blissfully happy. I'd spent 3 days preparing the perfect Christmas dinner. The turkey was golden brown. The mac and cheese bubbled with extra sharp cheddar. The greens simmered with smoked turkey legs, and my grandmother's sweet potato pie sat cooling on the counter. I decorated the house with garlands and lights, set the table with my wedding china, and carefully arranged name cards so both families would mix and mingle. Brandon and I had been married for 6 years. We'd met at a marketing conference when I was 24 and he was 27. He worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company. I was a graphic designer freelancing, mostly building my portfolio. He was charming, attentive, and persistent. He sent flowers to my office, remembered my coffee order, and told me I was beautiful every single day. When he proposed on a beach in Jamaica, I cried happy tears and said yes without hesitation. The first few years were good. We bought a house in a quiet neighborhood with a big backyard. We talked about having kids someday. We hosted game nights and went to concerts and took weekend trips to the mountains. Sure, we had arguments like any couple. He didn't like that I spent so much time on my design work. I didn't like that he went out drinking with his coworkers every Friday. But we always worked it out. We always came back to each other. This past year, though, things felt different. Brandon stayed late at work more often. He kept his phone face down on the table. He stopped initiating intimacy, and when I tried, he claimed he was tired or stressed. When I asked if something was wrong, he accused me of being paranoid and clingy. I told myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage had them. So I planned this Christmas dinner as a way to bring us closer, to remind both our families and ourselves what we built together. I invited everyone, my parents, my brother Jerome and his wife, my grandmother, my younger cousins, Brandon's parents, his sister Tanya, his uncle and aunt, his cousins. 23 people total, all gathered in our home to celebrate. The morning started perfectly. Brandon actually helped me set up, carrying folding chairs from the garage, arranging extra seating in the living room. He kissed my forehead and told me everything looked beautiful. I wore a red wrap dress, my hair in curls, feeling festive and hopeful. People started arriving at 2 o'clock. My mother brought her famous collard greens. Jerome brought wine. Brandon's mother brought a chocolate cake. Everyone hugged and laughed and complimented the decorations. Kids ran through the house excited about presents. The adults settled in the living room with drinks, catching up, sharing stories. Dinner was set for 4 o'clock. By 3:30 I had everything ready. I called everyone to the table, directing people to their seats. My father sat at one end, Brandon's father at the other. I'd seated myself between my mother and Brandon's mother, hoping to facilitate conversation. Brandon sat directly across from me, between my brother and his sister. We said grace. My father gave a beautiful blessing, thanking God for family, for health, for togetherness. Everyone said, Amen. I started passing dishes around, watching faces light up as they filled their plates. The conversation flowed easily. Brandon's uncle told a funny story about getting lost on the way to our house. My cousin talked about starting college next fall. Brandon's mother complimented my dress. I relaxed into my chair, feeling that warm glow of a plan coming together perfectly. I caught Brandon's eye across the table and smiled. He didn't smile back. His expression was strange, tight, almost angry. I furrowed my brow, silently asking what was wrong. He looked away. 10 minutes into the meal, Brandon's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his whole face changed. His jaw clenched. His nostrils flared. His hand gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. Brandon, his mother said softly. No phones at the table, honey. He ignored her. He stared at his phone, then at me, then back at his phone. His chest rose and fell rapidly. People around the table started noticing. Conversations trailing off. Forks pausing mid-air. Brandon, what's wrong? I asked, keeping my voice gentle. He stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. Everyone jumped. The kids stopped chattering. My grandmother's hand went to her heart. What's wrong? Brandon repeated, his voice shaking. What's wrong, Simone? I stood too, instinctively, my heart starting to race. Baby, what happened? Just tell me. He walked around the table toward me, his phone clutched in his fist. People shifted in their seats. My brother started to stand. Brandon's father said his name in a warning tone. I just got a call from my doctor, Brandon said, each word clipped and hard. Do you want to know what he told me, Simone? Do you want to know what he told me on Christmas Day? I shook my head, confused, scared. Brandon, I don't understand. He told me I have chlamydia. Brandon's voice rose. He told me I tested positive for a sexually transmitted disease. The table erupted in gasps and murmurs. My mother grabbed my arm. Jerome stood up completely. Brandon's mother said, Oh my God, Brandon, that's impossible. I said, my voice shaking. I don't have anything. I've never cheated on you. Never. Liar, he spat. The venom in his voice made me flinch. I'm not lying. I insisted, my eyes filling with tears. Brandon, I swear to God I haven't been with anyone but you. Not once in 6 years. Then where did I get it, Simone? He was yelling now, his face red. Where did I get a sexually transmitted infection if not from my wife? I don't know, but it wasn't from me. My voice broke. Maybe the test was wrong. Maybe there's a mistake. There's no mistake. He held up his phone. The doctor called me personally. My results are positive, which means you gave it to me, which means you've been sleeping around. That's not true. Tears streamed down my face now. My whole body shook. Brandon, please. In front of everyone, you're going to accuse me of this? Can we please talk privately? No. His voice went cold. No. I want everyone to know what kind of woman you really are. I want your parents to know their daughter is a cheater. I want my parents to know I married a liar. Brandon, stop it. My father's voice cut through the chaos. You need to calm down right now. Don't tell me to calm down. Brandon whirled toward my father. Your daughter gave me an STD. She's been cheating on me, and you want me to calm down. I haven't been cheating. I sobbed. Brandon, I love you. I would never do that. That's when he turned back to me. His face twisted with rage and something else I couldn't identify. That's when his hand came up. That's when everything happened in slow motion and too fast all at once. The slap knocked me sideways. I grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. My face burned. My ear rang. Someone screamed. Multiple people shouted. Brandon stood over me, breathing hard, his hand still raised. You disgust me, he said. Then my brother's fist connected with Brandon's jaw, and complete chaos erupted. Brandon stumbled backward into his sister. Jerome lunged after him. Brandon's father grabbed Jerome. My father grabbed Brandon. Women screamed, children cried, plates crashed to the floor. Someone knocked over a glass of wine. I stood there in the middle of it all, my hand pressed to my burning cheek, watching my entire life collapse around me. My mother pulled me away from the table, her arm around my shoulders, murmuring words I couldn't process. Brandon and Jerome were being held apart by their fathers, both shouting. Brandon's mother was crying. My grandmother sat frozen in her chair, her face pale. Through it all, through the noise and confusion and horror, one thought crystallized in my mind with perfect, terrible clarity. I had never cheated on Brandon. Not once, not ever. Which meant only one thing. He was the cheater. He'd caught chlamydia from someone else and was trying to blame me to cover his tracks. He just destroyed Christmas, humiliated me in front of everyone I loved, and put his hands on me, all to hide his own betrayal. And in that moment, standing in my destroyed dining room with my family in chaos around me, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to defend myself anymore. I was going to find out the truth. And then I was going to make Brandon regret the day he ever raised his hand to me. I spent Christmas night at my grandmother's house. My mother insisted I shouldn't be alone. And honestly, I didn't want to go back to the house I shared with Brandon. Not yet. Not until I knew what I was dealing with. Jerome wanted to go back and handle Brandon, as he put it, but our father talked him down. Violence wouldn't solve anything, and Jerome had a family to think about. Getting arrested for assault wouldn't help me. I appreciated his protective instincts, but I needed something more strategic than fists. I lay in my grandmother's guest room, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The chaos of the evening replayed on an endless loop. Brandon's rage, the slap that echoed through the room, the accusations in front of everyone, my family's shocked faces, the complete disintegration of what should have been a beautiful holiday. But beneath the humiliation and hurt, something else burned. Anger. Cold, focused anger. Because I knew the truth even if no one else did yet. I'd been faithful. Completely, utterly faithful. For 6 years, Brandon was the only man I'd been intimate with, which meant his positive test result came from somewhere else. From someone else. My phone buzzed constantly throughout the night. Texts from concerned family members. Missed calls from Brandon that I didn't answer. A long voicemail from his mother crying and apologizing for her son's behavior. I turned my phone face down and tried to sleep. I managed maybe 2 hours. The next morning, December 26th, I woke with a plan. I got dressed in jeans and a blue sweater, pulled my hair into a ponytail, and drove to an urgent care clinic across town where no one would recognize me. I walked in when they opened at 8 and requested a full STD panel. The nurse who took my blood was kind, professional. She didn't ask questions beyond the medical necessities. I sat in the sterile exam room, watching her label vials with my name, and felt strangely calm. This test would prove my innocence. It had to. Results will be available in 3 to 5 business days, she told me. We'll call you. Can I get them rushed? I asked. I'll pay extra. She looked at me, something knowing in her eyes. We can have preliminary results by tomorrow afternoon for bacterial infections. The full panel takes longer. Tomorrow is fine. Thank you. I left the clinic feeling lighter. Step 1 complete. Now for step 2. I drove home, my hand steady on the wheel. Brandon's truck sat in the driveway, which surprised me. I'd half expected him to be gone. I parked behind him, blocking him in, and walked through the front door. He sat at the kitchen table in rumpled clothes from yesterday, his head in his hands. He looked up when I entered, and I saw the bruise forming on his jaw from Jerome's punch. Good. Simone, he started, standing up. Baby, I'm so sorry. I was just so shocked and angry, and I reacted badly. I shouldn't have put my hands on you. That was wrong. I held up a hand, stopping him. Where are your test results? What? Your positive chlamydia test. I want to see the actual results, not just what a doctor supposedly told you over the phone on Christmas Day, which is strange timing, by the way. I want to see the paperwork. He hesitated. They emailed it to me. Show me. He pulled out his phone, fumbled with it for a moment, then turned it toward me. I took it from his hands and studied the email. It looked official. A patient portal message from his primary care physician. Test results. Positive for chlamydia. Collection date, December 20th. Results date, December 25th. Why did you get tested? I asked, my voice calm. What? You don't just randomly get STD tests. Why did you get tested on December 20th, Brandon? He shifted his weight. I had some symptoms. Burning when I used the bathroom. I thought maybe I had a UTI. And you didn't mention this to me? I didn't want to worry you during the holidays. I handed his phone back. I got tested this morning. Full panel. I'll have results tomorrow. His face went pale. Simone, that's not necessary. It absolutely is necessary, because when my results come back negative, we'll know for certain that I didn't give you anything, which means you got it somewhere else. That's ridiculous. You're the only person I've been with. I stared at him. This man I'd loved for 6 years, and I saw a stranger. You're lying. I'm not. You are. And when I prove it, Brandon, when I have documentation that I'm clean, you're going to tell me the truth, or I'm going to find out myself. He tried to step closer. I moved back. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. Sleep in the guest room. Actually, sleep somewhere else entirely. Go to your parents' house. This is my house too. Then I'll leave. But one of us is leaving right now, and I don't particularly care which one. I pulled out my phone. Should I call Jerome or my father? Or should I call the police and show them the pictures my mother took of my face last night? I didn't actually know if my mother had taken pictures, but it was a good bluff. Brandon's face crumpled. Fine, I'll go to a hotel. Good. Pack a bag. I want you gone in 20 minutes. He trudged upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, my heart pounding but my exterior calm. I heard him moving around, drawers opening and closing. 15 minutes later, he came back down with a duffel bag. Simone, please. Can we talk about this? No. Leave your key. What? Your house key. Leave it on the counter. You're not serious. I pulled out my phone again. He cursed under his breath, yanked his key off his keyring, and slammed it on the granite countertop. Then he left, the front door closing hard behind him. I waited until I heard his truck start and pull away. Then I walked through the house, checking every room. In our bedroom, I opened his nightstand drawer. His laptop sat there, the one he used for work. I opened it. Password protected, of course. I tried a few combinations, our anniversary, his birthday. Nothing worked. I closed it and looked around the room. Everything appeared normal, neat, organized. No obvious evidence of cheating. But I knew. In my gut, I knew. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up from the disaster of Christmas dinner. I threw away ruined food, washed dishes, put away decorations. Physical work kept my mind occupied. My phone rang several times. My mother checking on me. Jerome offering to come over. I assured everyone I was fine. I just needed space. That evening, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Tanya, Brandon's younger sister. I debated not answering, but Tanya had always been kind to me. We'd gotten close over the years. I opened the door. "Hey," she said softly. She wore jeans and a green jacket, her hair pulled back. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She entered, looking around at the now clean house. "You didn't have to see me," she said. "I know things are awful right now, but I needed to tell you something." My pulse quickened. "What?" She sat on the couch, twisting her hands together. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. It's been eating at me since yesterday, but after what Brandon did. After he hit you in front of everyone, I can't keep quiet. "Tanya, what is it?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with guilt and sadness. "I saw Brandon with another woman about 3 weeks ago. I was coming out of a restaurant downtown, and I saw them going into a hotel together. I called out to him, but he didn't hear me, or he pretended not to. They were holding hands, Simone." She was laughing at something he said. "They looked like a couple." The room tilted. I sat down heavily in the chair across from her. "Did you recognize her?" "No. I'd never seen her before. She was tall, light-skinned, long, straight hair, wearing business clothes." "Why didn't you tell me?" I convinced myself I was seeing things wrong, that there was some explanation. "Brandon's my brother, and I didn't want to believe he'd do that to you. But yesterday, when he accused you of cheating, when he hit you, I realized I'd been protecting the wrong person." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Simone. I should have told you right away." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "It's okay. You're telling me now. That's what matters. What are you going to do? Find out everything. And then make sure he pays for every lie." Tanya nodded. "If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. I'm on your side. What he did was unforgivable." After she left, I sat in the quiet house and felt pieces clicking into place. Brandon was having an affair. He'd caught chlamydia from his mistress, and rather than confess, he'd created a massive scene on Christmas to publicly accuse me first, trying to deflect blame and humiliate me into silence. It was calculated, cruel, and it wasn't going to work. The next afternoon, the clinic called. My results were in all negative. Every single test. I asked them to email me official documentation, which they did within the hour. I forwarded the results to Brandon with no message. Then I forwarded them to his parents and his sister and my parents. I wanted everyone who'd witnessed his accusations to see proof of my innocence. My phone rang 5 minutes later. "Brandon." I answered. "Yes, Simone, we need to talk." "No, Brandon, you need to talk. You need to tell me who she is." Silence then. "I don't know what you mean. Your sister saw you 3 weeks ago downtown going into a hotel with another woman. So you can drop the act. I have proof I'm clean. You have proof you're not, which means you caught it from her, whoever she is. So tell me her name." More silence, then quietly. "Her name is Candace." Something inside me hardened into steel. I want a divorce. "Simone, please let me explain." "No explanations, no second chances. You humiliated me in front of everyone I love. You put your hands on me. You tried to destroy my reputation to cover up your own disgusting behavior. We're done. I'm filing tomorrow." "You don't mean that." "I've never meant anything more in my life. Goodbye, Brandon." I hung up. Then I blocked his number. I sat there in my quiet house, the late afternoon sun streaming through the windows, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. I didn't sleep well that night either. But this time it wasn't from shock or grief. It was from planning. I lay in bed making mental lists, strategizing my next moves. By the time the sun rose on December 27th, I knew exactly what I needed to do. First, I called Nora. She'd been my best friend since college, a paralegal at a family law firm downtown. She answered on the second ring. "Girl, I've been waiting for you to call," she said. "I heard about Christmas. Jerome's wife told me. Are you okay?" "I'm getting divorced," I said simply. "And I need your help." "Say less. I'm coming over." She arrived within an hour, carrying her work laptop and a bag of bagels. We sat at my kitchen table and I told her everything. The test results, Brandon's confession about Candace, Tanya seeing them together. Nora took notes, her expression growing darker with each detail. Okay, she said when I finished. First thing, you need documentation of everything. Every text, every email, every phone call. Screenshot it all and save it in 3 different places. Cloud storage, external hard drive, and email it to yourself. Done. Good. Second, we need to protect your assets. Do you have separate bank accounts? We have a joint account for household expenses, but I kept my personal checking account from before we got married. Smart. How much is in the joint account? I pulled up my banking app. About $8,000. Take half. Transfer it to your personal account today. You're entitled to it, and you don't want him draining it out of spite. I transferred $4,000 immediately. What else? Change all your passwords. Every single one. Email, social media, banking, everything. If he had access to any of your accounts, cut him off now. I spent the next hour doing exactly that. Nora sitting beside me, eating a bagel and making a list. When I finished, she looked at me seriously. Now the big one. You need a private investigator. My eyebrows rose. Really? Absolutely. If you want a clean divorce with a good settlement, you need evidence. Not just what Tanya saw or what Brandon admitted over the phone. You need proof. Photos, timestamps, hotel records if possible. My firm works with a great PI. Want me to set up a meeting? Yes. She made a call. 20 minutes later, we had an appointment for that afternoon at 2. The investigator's office was in a plain brick building near the courthouse. His name was Robert Chin, a former police detective who'd gone private 5 years ago. He was in his 50s, gray hair, sharp eyes, professional demeanor. I told him what I needed. He listened without interrupting, occasionally jotting notes. How long has the affair been going on? He asked. I don't know for sure. Tanya saw them 3 weeks ago, but it could be longer. Do you know where this Candace works? Brandon mentioned she's a coworker. He works for Patterson Pharmaceuticals in sales. Robert nodded, typing on his computer. I can work with that. I'll need a recent photo of your husband, access to his work schedule if you have it, and a retainer of $1,500. I pulled out my checkbook without hesitation. This was worth every penny. How long will it take? Nora asked. If he's still seeing her regularly, I should have something within a week. Maybe less if I get lucky. We shook hands. Robert assured me he'd be in touch soon. Nora and I left his office and sat in her car for a moment. You're really doing this, she said. I really am. Good. You deserve so much better than Brandon. That evening, Jerome came over. He brought his toolkit and changed all my locks. I gave him Brandon's key to make sure it wouldn't work anymore. We sat on my back porch afterward, drinking coffee in the cold December air. How you holding up, sis? He asked. Better than I expected, honestly. I think I'm still in shock. Dad wants to press charges for the assault. I considered it. Not yet. Let me get through the divorce first. I don't want anything slowing that down. Jerome studied me. You're different since Christmas. Calmer. I'm focused. There's a difference between calm and focused. Focused on what? Making sure Brandon regrets every choice that led to this moment. Jerome smiled. A fierce, protective smile. That's my sister. You need anything, you call me. Money muscle, bail money. If it comes to that, I laughed despite everything. I'll keep that in mind. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. I met with a divorce attorney Nora recommended, a sharp woman named Patricia, who'd been practicing family law for 20 years. She looked over everything I'd gathered and nodded approvingly. You've done good work documenting this, she said. With the STD results and his admission of the affair, this should be straightforward. Virginia is a no-fault state, but adultery is still a factor in asset division and spousal support. I don't want his money, I said. I just want out. Understood. But you're entitled to half of all marital assets. The house, his retirement account, any joint investments. Don't leave money on the table out of pride. She was right. I contributed to our marriage financially and otherwise. I wasn't going to walk away with nothing just to make it end faster. We filed the divorce papers on January 2nd. Brandon was served at work on January 5th. He called me repeatedly, but I blocked his number. He tried emailing. I had my attorney respond. He showed up at the house. I called the police and had them remove him for trespassing. I was done engaging. On January 8th, Robert the investigator called. I've got something. Can you come to my office? I drove there immediately. He spread photos across his desk. Brandon and a woman I didn't recognize coming out of a hotel. Brandon and the same woman having lunch. Brandon's car parked outside an apartment building. Time-stamped at midnight. Brandon and the woman kissing in a parking garage. That's Candace Williams, Robert said. She works in Brandon's department at Patterson Pharmaceuticals. Junior account manager. They've been seeing each other for at least 8 months based on what I could confirm. The affair started at a company conference in Atlanta last May. 8 months. While I was planning our anniversary trip, picking out his Christmas gifts, cooking his dinners, he was sleeping with Candace. There's more, Robert said. I interviewed a few people at his office discreetly. The affair is pretty much an open secret. Several coworkers knew about it. One told me Brandon was planning to ask you for a divorce after New Year's, but he wanted to get through the holidays first. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd wanted to get through the holidays, so he destroyed Christmas instead. This is excellent work, I said, looking through the photos. Can I get copies of everything? Already prepared. He handed me a flash drive. Everything's on here. Photos, timestamps, witness statements. Enough to bury him in divorce court. I paid Robert his final fee and left his office feeling vindicated. I had everything I needed now. That night, I sat in my home office, the office where I did my graphic design work, and looked around. I'd been freelancing for years, taking on projects here and there, building a decent client base, but I'd never pushed myself to go bigger. Brandon had always discouraged it, said I should focus on supporting his career instead of building my own. Well, Brandon was gone now, and I had nothing but time and motivation. I opened my laptop and started drafting a business plan. If I was going to rebuild my life, I might as well rebuild it into something better than before. By midnight, I had the outline for my own design firm. By 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd sketched a logo. By 4, I drafted an email to my 5 best clients, letting them know I was expanding my services. I fell asleep at my desk, exhausted but energized, ready for whatever came next. January became February. Winter settled over Virginia with gray skies and occasional snow. I moved through this new phase of my life with methodical precision, checking tasks off my list one by one. Some days were harder than others. Some nights I cried into my pillow, mourning not the man Brandon had become, but the man I thought he was. But every morning I got up, got dressed, and kept moving forward. My family rallied around me. My mother came over twice a week with food, claiming I needed to eat more. My father helped me set up a new home office with better lighting and a proper desk. Jerome installed a security camera system, after I mentioned feeling nervous alone in the house. My grandmother sent me care packages with her homemade cookies and encouraging notes. Brandon's family split in their reactions. His mother called repeatedly, begging me to reconsider, claiming Brandon made a mistake and deserved forgiveness. I was polite but firm. His father sent a brief email apologizing for his son's behavior and wishing me well. Tanya called every few days just to check on me, and we grew closer through this mess than we'd ever been before. Brandon himself tried everything to get me to engage with him. Flowers delivered to my door, which I donated to a nursing home. Long emails professing his love and regret, which I forwarded to my attorney without reading. He tried coming to the house 3 more times. Each time I called the police. After the 3rd time, my attorney got a restraining order requiring him to stay at least 500 feet away, unless it involved the divorce proceedings. The legal process moved slower than I wanted but faster than expected. We had a mediation session scheduled for late February. Patricia prepared me thoroughly, going over every asset, every account, every possible point of negotiation. He's going to try to keep the house, she warned. Men usually do. They think because they make more money, they're entitled to it. I want the house, I said firmly. My name is on that deed just as much as his. I've put 6 years of work into that house. I'm not giving it up. Good. We'll fight for it. Meanwhile, my design business started taking off in ways I never expected. I'd always been good at my work, but I'd lacked confidence in selling myself. Now, with nothing to lose, I pitched aggressively. I reached out to businesses I'd never dared approach before. I updated my portfolio website, invested in better software, and started networking. In late January, I landed a contract with a boutique hotel chain that needed a complete rebrand. It was the biggest project I'd ever taken on, and the pay was substantial. I threw myself into it, working late nights, perfecting every detail. That's when I reconnected with Nathaniel. We'd worked together 5 years ago at a marketing agency before I went freelance. He'd been an art director, creative and funny, with an easy smile and genuine kindness. We'd been work friends, grabbing lunch, occasionally collaborating on projects. When I left the agency, we'd lost touch beyond occasional social media interactions. He reached out in mid-February with a LinkedIn message. He'd seen my post about starting my own design firm, and wanted to congratulate me. We exchanged a few messages and he mentioned he'd left the agency too, and was now creative director at a tech startup downtown. They needed a designer for a project. Was I interested? I met him for coffee to discuss it. He looked good, older, but in a good way, with touches of gray at his temples and laugh lines around his eyes. We talked about the project, which sounded interesting and challenging. But we also talked about life, catching up on the years we'd missed. I heard you got married, he said. How's that going? Getting divorced, actually. His eyebrows rose. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. Best decision I've made in years. We talked for 2 hours. The project discussion turning into genuine conversation. He told me about his own divorce 3 years ago. His 2 kids who lived with their mother in Richmond. His journey from angry to accepting to finally content. I told him about Brandon, about Christmas, about everything that had happened since. That's horrible, he said when I finished. But you seem like you're handling it well. I'm handling it the only way I know how, moving forward. That's all you can do. He offered me the project. I accepted. We started meeting regularly to work on it. Sometimes at his office, sometimes at coffee shops, once at my house when I needed access to my full design library. Our relationship stayed professional but friendly. He never pushed for more, never asked invasive questions, never made me feel like anything other than a respected colleague. It was refreshing. One evening in late February, after a particularly productive work session at a coffee shop, he walked me to my car. Snow fell lightly, dusting everything in white. Can I say something that might be crossing a line? He asked. Sure. Your ex-husband is an idiot. Any man who cheats on you, who treats you the way you've described, is fundamentally broken. And I hope you know his actions say nothing about your worth and everything about his character. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you. I needed to hear that. You're going to be fine, Simone. Better than fine. You're talented, strong, and resilient. This is just a chapter, not the whole story. I hugged him. He hugged back, warm and solid and safe. Nothing romantic, just human connection and comfort. When we pulled apart, I felt lighter. The mediation session happened on February 28th. Brandon and I sat on opposite sides of a conference table with our attorneys and a mediator. It was the first time I'd seen him since I'd kicked him out of the house 2 months ago. He looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his face was gaunt, and he had dark circles under his eyes. Part of me felt satisfaction. A smaller part felt pity. The mediator, an older woman with gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude, explained the process. We'd go through each asset and attempt to reach an agreement. If we couldn't agree, she'd make recommendations, and ultimately a judge would decide. We started with the easy stuff. Bank accounts were split 50-50. I kept my car. He kept his truck. Furniture would be divided based on who kept the house. Then we got to the house itself. My client wants to keep the marital home, Brandon's attorney said. He's willing to buy out Miss Harper's share at current market value. My client also wants to keep the home, Patricia countered. She's willing to buy out Mr. Harper's share. Brandon leaned forward. Simone, be reasonable. You can't afford that house on your income. It was the first time he'd spoken directly to me. I looked at him coldly. You don't know anything about my income anymore, Brandon, and I can afford it just fine. You're being vindictive. No, I'm being fair. I want what I'm entitled to. The mediation lasted 4 hours. We eventually agreed I'd keep the house. Brandon would keep his retirement account, which was worth slightly more than his half of the house equity, so it balanced out. I'd keep all my design equipment and client contracts. He'd keep his stock options. The only real fight came over spousal support. His attorney argued that since I was now running a business, I should pay Brandon alimony. Patricia shut that down quickly with evidence of my earnings versus his, pointing out that his affair had caused the divorce, and Virginia courts rarely awarded alimony to the at-fault party. We left that session with most issues resolved. The judge would finalize everything in a hearing scheduled for late March. I walked out of that building feeling exhausted but triumphant. Nora waited in the lobby for me, and we went to dinner to celebrate. You did it, she said, raising her glass of wine. You're almost free. I clinked my glass against hers. Almost. That night, alone in my house that would soon be only mine, I looked around at everything Brandon and I had built together. The walls we'd painted, the floors we'd refinished, the memories embedded in every room. And I realized I didn't want those memories anymore. I wanted something new. I pulled out my phone and started making a list. New paint colors, new furniture, a complete redesign. This house was going to become mine. Truly mine. With no trace of Brandon left. I fell asleep that night with paint swatches scattered across my bed. already imagining the transformation. March arrived with the promise of spring. Trees budded, temperatures climbed, and my life continued its upward trajectory. I threw myself into work with an intensity that surprised even me. My design firm, which I'd officially named Elevation Design Company, was growing faster than I'd anticipated. The hotel chain rebrand I'd completed in February won me recognition in the industry. They were thrilled with the work and referred me to 3 other businesses. The project with Nathaniel's tech startup wrapped up successfully, and he immediately hired me for another one. Word of mouth spread. My portfolio expanded. My client list grew. By mid-March, I'd hired my first employee, a recent college graduate named Rachel, who was hungry and talented. She handled the smaller projects while I focused on the bigger clients. I moved my office from my spare bedroom to a small commercial space downtown, a bright loft with huge windows and exposed brick walls. I painted one wall bright blue, another red, creating a vibrant, creative space that energized me every time I walked in. Nora helped me set up the business properly. LLC, paperwork, insurance contracts, invoicing systems. What had started as a desperate need to support myself had become something I was genuinely proud of. I was building something that was entirely mine. The divorce hearing was scheduled for March 28th. Patricia assured me it was mostly a formality at this point. We'd settled everything in mediation. The judge would review the agreement, ask a few questions, and sign off. I'd be officially divorced and free to move forward. The week before the hearing, something unexpected happened at Brandon's workplace. I got a call from Tanya. "Have you heard?" she asked, her voice excited. "Heard what?" "Brandon got passed over for a promotion. Not only that, but he's being investigated by HR. I sat up straighter at my desk. Why? Because of the affair. Apparently, Candace was technically his subordinate, even though they were in different divisions. The company has strict policies about relationships between supervisors and their reports. Someone filed a complaint. HR is investigating whether he abused his position, or if there was any coercion involved. I felt a smile spread across my face. Really? Really? And get this. Candace broke up with him. Apparently, she thought he was getting divorced to be with her. When she found out about the settlement and that you were getting the house, she realized he wasn't as financially stable as she thought. She dumped him last week. I laughed. A genuine laugh that felt good in my chest. Karma is beautiful. It really is. My parents are furious with him. They told him he brought this on himself and they're not helping him anymore. He's on his own. After we hung up, I sat at my desk feeling lighter than I had in months. Brandon was facing consequences, real, tangible consequences for his choices. His career was in jeopardy. His relationship had ended. His family had turned on him. And it had nothing to do with me. I hadn't orchestrated any of it. Life had simply delivered justice on its own. That evening, Nathaniel and I met for dinner to celebrate wrapping up our second project together. We went to a nice Italian restaurant downtown, sitting at a table by the window with a view of the city lights. "So," he said after we ordered, "I heard you hired someone. Congratulations on the expansion." "Thank you. Feels surreal, honestly. 6 months ago, I was a housewife doing freelance design on the side. Now I'm running a real business with an employee and a lease and business cards. You were always capable of this. You just needed the right circumstances to push you. Pretty terrible circumstances, but yes." He set down his wine glass and looked at me seriously. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I had such a crush on you when we worked together 5 years ago, but you were married and I respected that. So I never said anything. When you reached out on LinkedIn, I was thrilled. Not because you were getting divorced, obviously, but just to reconnect. And these past couple months, getting to work with you again, seeing how you've handled everything with such grace and strength, I'm reminded why I liked you so much back then." My heart beat faster. "Nathaniel, I'm not trying to pressure you into anything. I know you're still processing everything with your divorce, but I wanted you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever interested, I'd like to take you out on an actual date. Not a work meeting disguised as coffee. A real date." I looked at him, this kind, patient man who'd supported me without asking for anything in return, who made me laugh and challenged me creatively, and treated me with respect, who saw me as a whole person, not just a wife or an ex-wife. "I'd like that," I said. "After the divorce is final, after I've had time to properly close that chapter. But yes, I'd like that very much." His smile lit up his whole face. "I can wait." The divorce hearing went exactly as Patricia predicted. Brandon and I sat in a courtroom with our attorneys, and a judge reviewed our settlement agreement. The whole thing took less than 30 minutes. "Mr. Harper, do you agree to the terms as outlined?" the judge asked. Yes, Your Honor, Brandon said quietly. Miss Richardson, do you agree to the terms as outlined? Yes, Your Honor. Very well. The marriage between Brandon Harper and Simone Richardson is hereby dissolved. This court awards the marital home to Ms. Richardson, retirement assets to Mr. Harper, and joint debt split as outlined in the agreement. Good luck to both of you. She signed the papers. It was done. I was divorced. I walked out of that courtroom and felt like I could breathe fully for the first time in months. Patricia shook my hand and congratulated me. Brandon left through a different exit. I didn't even look back. Nora, Jerome, and my parents took me to lunch to celebrate. We went to my favorite seafood restaurant, and everyone toasted to new beginnings. My mother cried happy tears. My father squeezed my hand and told me he was proud of me. Jerome promised to help me redecorate the house however I wanted. That weekend I hosted a small party at my house, just close friends and family. We drank wine, ate good food, and celebrated freedom. Nathaniel came, meeting my family properly for the first time. Jerome grilled him protectively, but Nathaniel handled it with good humor. My mother liked him immediately. Late in the evening, Nathaniel and I stood on my back porch, looking at the stars. How does it feel? He asked. Free. Scary. Exciting. All of it. You're going to do amazing things, Simone. I already am. He took my hand and we stood there in comfortable silence, the night air cool around us. The sounds of laughter floating from inside the house. I thought about where I'd been 6 months ago. Humiliated on Christmas, betrayed by the man I trusted most, facing an uncertain future alone. And I thought about where I was now. Business owner, homeowner, surrounded by people who loved and supported me, with opportunities stretching out before me, and a good man willing to wait for me to be ready. Brandon had tried to destroy me. He'd slapped me, accused me, humiliated me in front of everyone I loved. He'd thought that would break me, would make me weak and desperate. Instead, he'd freed me. He'd forced me to find my own strength, to build my own life, to discover who I was outside of being his wife. And who I was turned out to be someone pretty incredible. I didn't go looking for information about Brandon's life after the divorce. I had too much going on with my own life to worry about his. But information found me anyway. Whether through Tanya's occasional updates or through mutual acquaintances who felt compelled to share. In April, I learned that the HR investigation had concluded. Brandon was found to have violated company policy by engaging in a relationship with someone in his reporting chain. Even though Candace worked in a different division, the power dynamics were clear. He'd been her senior in both rank and tenure. The company had a zero-tolerance policy. He wasn't fired, but he was demoted. Moved from senior sales representative to a junior position with a significant pay cut. His corner office was given to someone else. He lost his company car. His commission structure was altered. In essence, his career at Patterson Pharmaceuticals was effectively over. He could either accept the demotion or resign with no severance. He accepted the demotion. From what Tanya told me, he couldn't afford to resign. The divorce settlement had left him with less than he'd expected. His retirement account, while substantial, wasn't liquid. He'd had to find an apartment, furnish it, cover his legal fees. Money was tight. He's living in a one-bedroom in that complex off Route 7, Tanya said during one of our phone calls. The one with the tiny balconies and the broken elevator. It's depressing. How's he handling it? Not well. He's angry all the time. Blames everyone but himself. Mom tried to have him over for dinner last month, and he spent the whole time complaining about how unfair everything was. Dad told him to take responsibility for his actions, and Brandon stormed out. They haven't spoken since. I felt a twinge of something. Not quite pity, but not satisfaction either. Just a sort of detached observation that consequences had arrived. How's his health? I asked, realizing I should probably show some concern. He got treatment for the chlamydia, obviously, but I think the stress is getting to him. He looks 10 years older than he did 6 months ago. Meanwhile, my life continued to flourish. In May, Elevation Design Company landed its biggest client yet. A national retail chain needed a complete visual identity overhaul. The contract was worth 6 figures. I hired 2 more employees to handle the workload, both talented designers I'd connected with through networking events. I moved to a bigger office space, this one with a conference room and a proper reception area. I bought new equipment, invested in better software, and implemented project management systems that streamlined our workflow. What had started as a one-woman operation was becoming a legitimate company. My personal life was evolving too. Nathaniel and I had been dating officially since April, taking things slow and steady. We had dinner dates, went to museums, took weekend trips to the mountains. He met my family multiple times and they approved wholeheartedly. I met his kids, a daughter in middle school and a son in elementary school, and we got along well. There was no drama, no games, no secrets. Just honest communication, mutual respect, and genuine affection. After 6 years with Brandon, the contrast was striking. This was what a healthy relationship looked like. One evening in late May, Nathaniel and I were having dinner at my house. I'd cooked pasta and we were sitting on my newly renovated back porch, which I transformed with new furniture and potted plants. "I have something to tell you," he said, looking nervous. My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "I got a job offer in Seattle, head of creative for a major tech company. It's an incredible opportunity, the kind of thing I've been working toward my whole career." I felt my heart sink. "Oh, I haven't accepted yet. I wanted to talk to you first." "Nathaniel, you can't turn down an opportunity like that for me. We've only been dating a couple months." "I know, but I also know this could be something serious, and I don't want to walk away from that without at least discussing it." We talked for hours about his career goals, about my business that was rooted in Virginia, about what we wanted from our relationship. It was honest and hard and necessary. In the end, we decided he should take the job. We'd try long distance for a while and see how it went. If it was meant to be, we'd find a way to make it work. If not, at least we'd have had something good, however brief. He left for Seattle in mid-June. We video chatted regularly and he flew back once a month. I focused on my business, which continued to grow. It wasn't the fairy tale romance I might have wanted, but it was real and honest, which mattered more. In July, I got a surprising email from Brandon's attorney. Brandon was contesting part of the divorce settlement. He wanted to renegotiate spousal support, claiming his reduced income entitled him to alimony from me. I forwarded the email to Patricia, who called me immediately. "He cannot be serious," she said. "Apparently, he is. Simone, your income has increased, yes, but that's due to your hard work after the divorce. He's not entitled to benefit from that, especially given that he was the one who committed adultery and caused the divorce in the first place." What do? We respond with a very firm no and remind his attorney that we can always reopen discovery about his affair if he wants to play games. The photos from the private investigator were pretty damning. I'm betting his attorney doesn't even know about those. She was right. Within a week, Brandon's attorney withdrew the request. Apparently, when Patricia threatened to submit the affair evidence to the court, Brandon backed down immediately. He didn't want those photos becoming part of the public record. Tanya called me shortly after. "You heard about the alimony thing?" "I did. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe he had the nerve to ask you for money after everything he did." "It's not your fault, Tanya. Brandon makes his own choices." Mom is livid. She called him and told him he's an embarrassment to the family. Dad said if he ever contacts you again asking for money, they're cutting him off completely. I felt bad for Brandon's parents. They were good people who'd raised what they thought was a good son. Finding out he turned into someone capable of such cruelty and pettiness had to be devastating. In August, I learned that Brandon had been let go from Patterson Pharmaceuticals entirely. The demotion apparently wasn't the end of his punishment. His performance had been poor, and the company decided to eliminate his position during a restructuring. He received a small severance package and 2 weeks' notice. He tried to find another job in pharmaceutical sales, but word had gotten around the industry about the HR violation and demotion. No one wanted to hire someone with that kind of baggage. He ended up taking a job selling insurance, making a fraction of what he'd earned before. His girlfriend, Candace, I learned through the grapevine, had moved on quickly. She was dating someone else, another coworker. This time, someone who actually had good career prospects and wasn't married. She never looked back at Brandon. By September, Brandon had moved to an even smaller apartment because he couldn't afford the rent on the first one. He'd sold his truck and bought a used sedan. His life had contracted in every way while mine had expanded. I didn't feel happy about his suffering. Exactly. But I didn't feel bad either. He'd made choices. He cheated, lied, manipulated, and gotten violent. Now he was experiencing the natural consequences of those choices. That wasn't my fault or my responsibility. I focused on what I could control. My business, my relationships, my happiness. I repainted my entire house in bright, cheerful colors. I took a design course to expand my skills. I volunteered with the local women's shelter, teaching residents basic graphic design skills they could use to find employment. My life was full and rich and completely my own, and that felt like the best revenge of all. October arrived with cool air and changing leaves. I stood in my office, looking out the window at the Virginia landscape transforming into autumn colors, and marveled at how different everything looked compared to a year ago. This time last year I'd been planning Christmas dinner, trying to save a marriage that was already dead, completely unaware of the bomb about to explode in my life. Now, I had 3 employees, 12 active clients, and a business that was not just surviving but thriving. Elevation Design Company had been featured in 2 industry publications. I'd been invited to speak at a design conference in Atlanta next month. My calendar was booked solid through the end of the year. More importantly, I felt like myself again. Actually, I felt like a better version of myself. Stronger, more confident, more aware of my worth. Nathaniel flew in from Seattle for a long weekend in mid-October. We'd been making the long-distance thing work, but it was hard. Time zones, busy schedules, the simple absence of physical presence. We needed to talk about the future. We met at a cozy restaurant in Old Town Alexandria, one with low lighting and intimate booths. He looked good, more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. Seattle was treating him well. "I've been thinking," he said after we ordered, "about us, about this arrangement." My heart sank. Okay. The job in Seattle is great. The work is challenging. The team is talented and I'm learning a lot. But I miss you. I miss being here. I miss having dinner together without a screen between us. I miss you too. But I can't move my business to Seattle. Not now. Maybe not ever. Everything I've built is here. I know. And I wouldn't ask you to. Your business is incredible. And you're doing exactly what you should be doing. He reached across the table and took my hand. But I've been talking to my ex-wife about the kids, about maybe adjusting our custody arrangement. She's actually been supportive. She's seeing someone seriously, and they're talking about moving in together. The kids are doing well. They'd be okay with me being farther away if I fly them out regularly and come back for holidays and important events. Nathaniel, what are you saying? I'm saying there's a creative director position opening up at a firm here in DC. I heard about it through a contact. It's not as prestigious as the Seattle job, but it's solid. Good pay, interesting work, room for growth. And it's here. With you. I felt tears prick my eyes. You'd leave Seattle? I've been there 4 months. You and I have known each other for 5 years. We've been building something real these past 6 months, even with the distance. That matters more to me than a job title. He squeezed my hand. I'm not saying we have to get married tomorrow or make any huge commitments. I'm just saying I'd like to be in the same city as you, to see where this goes without the complication of 3,000 miles between us. Are you sure? I'm sure. I already applied for the DC position. I have an interview next week when I'm here. I wanted to tell you first, before anything was definite, so you'd know what I'm thinking. I got up from my side of the booth and slid in next to him, hugging him tightly. I'd love that. I'd love having you here. He got the job. He gave Seattle 2 months' notice and moved back to Virginia right before Thanksgiving. We took things slow, not rushing into anything, but the relationship deepened with proximity. He understood my dedication to my business. I understood his commitment to his kids. We built something steady and healthy, based on mutual respect and genuine affection. For Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at my house. Just family and close friends this time, keeping it intimate. My parents, Jerome and his wife, my grandmother, Nora and her partner, Nathaniel, and his kids, Tanya, who'd become one of my closest friends through all this. It was nothing like last year's Christmas. There was no tension, no hidden secrets, no impending disaster. Just warmth and laughter and gratitude. As I looked around my dining room table at all these people I loved who loved me back, I felt overwhelmed with emotion. A year ago, I'd been at my lowest point, humiliated, hurt, my life in pieces. Now I was surrounded by genuine support. I had a business I was proud of, a home that was truly mine, a relationship built on honesty, and most importantly, I had myself back. After dinner, Nathaniel and I cleaned up while everyone else moved to the living room. We worked in comfortable silence, loading the dishwasher, wrapping leftovers. You know what I'm grateful for? He said. What? That you gave me a chance. I know the timing wasn't ideal, meeting again right after your divorce. I know you needed space to heal, but I'm grateful you let me be part of your life during this time. I'm grateful too. For your patience, for your kindness, for seeing me as a whole person and not just someone broken who needed fixing. He dried his hands and turned to me. You were never broken, Simone. You were just in a bad situation. There's a difference. I kissed him, soft and sweet, there in my kitchen with the sounds of my family laughing in the other room. This was what happiness felt like. Not the desperate, clinging happiness of trying to save something dying, but the calm, steady happiness of building something healthy from the start. In December, I got invited to participate in a panel discussion about women entrepreneurs at a business conference in Richmond. I almost said no. Public speaking wasn't my strong suit, but Nora convinced me to do it. Your story is inspiring, she said. Other women need to hear that you can rebuild after devastation. That divorce doesn't have to be the end of your life. It can be the beginning of something better. So I agreed. I prepared my talking points, practiced my delivery, and drove to Richmond on a cold Saturday morning. The panel was me and 3 other women, all running successful businesses, all with stories of overcoming obstacles. We sat on a stage in front of about 200 people, mostly women, and answered questions about our journeys. When it was my turn to introduce myself and share my story, I took a deep breath and spoke honestly. I talked about being a freelance designer who didn't think she was capable of more, about a marriage that ended badly, about using that pain as fuel to build something meaningful. A year ago, my husband accused me of cheating on him to cover up his own affair, I said. He humiliated me in front of my family on Christmas Day, and in that moment I had a choice. I could let that destroy me or I could let it motivate me. I chose motivation. I chose to pour every ounce of energy into building something that was mine, that nobody could take from me. And now I run a design firm with 3 employees and clients across the country. Not in spite of what happened, but because of it. The room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. Some women were crying. After the panel, at least a dozen women came up to me, sharing their own stories of divorce, of starting over, of finding strength they didn't know they had. One woman, probably in her 50s, hugged me. Thank you, she whispered. I've been thinking about leaving my husband for 2 years, but I was too scared to start over. You just gave me hope. I drove home from Richmond feeling like I'd done something important. My story wasn't just about revenge or anger. It was about resilience, about refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your worth. Nathaniel was waiting at my house when I got back. He'd made dinner, set candles on the table, put on soft music. How did it go? He asked. Better than I expected. I think I actually helped some people. I'm sure you did. You're pretty incredible. You know that. I'm starting to believe it. We ate dinner, talked about our days, made plans for the weekend. Simple. Domestic. Comfortable. This was what I'd always wanted. Not grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Just partnership, respect, mutual support. Later that night, as we sat on my couch watching a movie, his arm around my shoulders, I thought about Brandon. I wondered if he ever thought about what he'd lost. If he understood that his choices had cost him everything. His career, his family's respect, his marriage to someone who'd loved him unconditionally. But mostly I didn't think about Brandon at all anymore. He was a chapter in my past, not a presence in my present. And that felt like the truest form of moving on. The final divorce decree arrived in early January. Exactly 1 year after I had filed, it was official, legal, complete. I was no longer Simone Harper, married woman. I was Simone Richardson, my maiden name restored, completely independent. I held the papers in my hands, this legal documentation of the end of a 6-year marriage, and felt nothing but relief. No sadness, no regret, just pure, clean relief that this chapter was officially closed. Patricia called to congratulate me. You got everything you asked for, and then some. The house, fair division of assets, no alimony owed in either direction. This is a good outcome, Simone. It is. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being an easy client. You had your evidence organized. You were reasonable in negotiations, and you didn't let emotion cloud your judgment. That's rare in divorce cases. After we hung up, I called Nora. It's done. Officially divorced. Congratulations. How does it feel? Like I can finally breathe all the way. We're celebrating. Dinner tonight, my treat. We went to an upscale restaurant downtown. Just the 2 of us, and toasted to new beginnings over expensive wine and excellent food. Nora had been my rock through all of this, offering legal advice, emotional support, and unwavering friendship. I didn't know how I would have survived without her. What's next? She asked. Any big plans now that you're officially free? Keep building the business. Maybe travel more. Nathaniel and I have been talking about taking a trip to Italy in the spring. Things are good with him. Really good. He's everything Brandon wasn't. Honest, supportive, secure in himself. There's no drama, no games, no secrets. You deserve that. The business continued to grow. In February, I landed a contract with a nonprofit organization that worked with domestic violence survivors. They needed a complete rebrand and website redesign. The pay was modest, but the work was meaningful. I took the project personally, pouring extra time and energy into creating something powerful and hopeful. When I presented the final designs to the nonprofit director, a woman named Helen, who'd started the organization after leaving her own abusive marriage, she cried. This is perfect, she said, looking at the logo I created. A bird in flight, wings spread, breaking free from a cage. This is exactly what we needed. Thank you. Thank you for the work you do. It matters more than you know. I told her about my own experience. Not the details, just the broad strokes. A marriage that ended with public humiliation, the struggle to rebuild, the importance of having support. If you ever need design work in the future, I'll do it pro bono, I said. Consider it my contribution to the cause. She hugged me tightly. Women like you are why we do this work, because survival isn't enough. We help women thrive. That conversation stayed with me for weeks. I realized I wanted to do more. I started volunteering regularly at a women's shelter, teaching residents basic computer skills and resume building. I donated a portion of my business profits to organizations supporting domestic violence survivors and women starting over after divorce. My pain had purpose now. It wasn't just something that happened to me. It was something I could use to help others. In March, Nathaniel and I took that Italy trip we discussed. 2 weeks in Tuscany, staying in small hotels, eating incredible food, touring medieval towns and Renaissance art museums. It was romantic and relaxing and exactly what I needed. One evening we sat at a cafe in Florence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. Nathaniel reached across the table and took my hand. I love you, he said. I know we agreed to take things slow, but I need you to know that I love you. My heart swelled. I love you too. I'm not asking for anything to change. I'm not pressuring you for commitments or timelines. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I appreciate that and I feel the same way. I love you and I'm happy with how things are going. No rush. We kissed across the table, tourist cameras flashing around us, and I felt genuinely content. This was what love should feel like. Safe, supportive, joyful. When we returned from Italy, I found out that Brandon had tried to contact me while I was gone. He called my office, but my employee Rachel had told him I was traveling and couldn't be reached. He'd sent an email to my business address, which I'd filtered automatically to trash months ago. Tanya told me what it was about. He wanted to ask if you'd consider investing in a business opportunity with him. Some kind of multi-level marketing scheme. I told him he was delusional if he thought you'd give him money. I laughed. A business opportunity? Really? He's desperate, Simone. He's barely making ends meet. His insurance sales job isn't going well. He owes money on credit cards. I think he's hoping you'll feel sorry for him. I don't feel sorry for him. I feel nothing for him. And that was true. Brandon had become a stranger. The man I'd married was gone if he ever really existed. In his place was someone I didn't know and didn't care to know. I focused on my own life. My business hit a major milestone in April when we were featured in a national design magazine. The article was titled Rising Stars, 10 Design Firms to Watch, and featured a full-page spread about Elevation Design Company, including photos of our office and interviews with my team. Orders poured in. After that article, I had to hire 2 more employees to keep up with demand. We moved to an even larger office space, this one with a conference room and a proper reception area. I implemented profit sharing for my employees, wanting them to benefit from the company's success. I established a formal mentorship program, partnering with local colleges to give design students real-world experience. What had started as survival had become something much bigger. I was building something that would last, that would create opportunities for others, that would make a real impact. In May, I threw a party at my house to celebrate the first anniversary of Elevation Design Company. I invited employees, clients, friends, family. My backyard was transformed with lights and decorations. We had it catered, hired a local band, made it a real celebration. Nathaniel gave a toast to Simone, who turned her worst day into her best decision, who built something incredible from the ashes of something painful, who proves every day that resilience and talent are an unstoppable combination. Everyone cheered. I felt tears in my eyes, but happy tears this time. I looked around at all these people who believed in me, who'd supported me, who celebrated my success genuinely. This was my life now, full, meaningful, joyful. And I built it myself. Summer arrived hot and bright. Business stayed strong despite the traditional summer slowdown. I took a week off in July to visit Nathaniel's kids at their summer camp, getting to know them better, building that relationship slowly and carefully. In August, something unexpected happened. A major lifestyle magazine contacted me about doing a feature story, not just about my business, but about my personal journey. They'd read the article in the design magazine and wanted to do a deeper dive into my story of rebuilding after divorce. I hesitated. Sharing my story publicly beyond the occasional conference panel felt vulnerable. But I talked to Nathaniel, to Nora, to my family. They all encouraged me to do it. Your story will help people, my mother said. Don't hide your light. I agreed to the interview. The journalist, a woman named Rita who specialized in human interest stories, came to my office in early September. We talked for 3 hours. I told her everything. The Christmas dinner, the slap, the accusations, the affair, the divorce, building my business from the ground up. What would you say to Brandon if you could talk to him now? She asked. I thought about it carefully. I'd say thank you. Her eyebrows rose. Thank you. Thank you for showing me who you really were before I wasted any more years on you. Thank you for forcing me to find my own strength. Thank you for the slap that woke me up to what I deserved. You tried to destroy me, but you freed me instead. So thank you. The article came out in late October, time to coincide with Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It was titled From Humiliation to Elevation, One Woman's Journey After Public Betrayal, and featured photos of me in my office at home with my team. The magazine didn't use Brandon's name, respecting my wishes for privacy, but the story was detailed and honest. It talked about the STD accusation, the public humiliation, the physical violence, the discovery of the affair. It talked about filing for divorce, starting a business, rebuilding my life piece by piece. The response was overwhelming. The article went viral online. Women shared it on social media with their own stories of surviving bad marriages and starting over. I received hundreds of emails and messages from women thanking me for speaking out, for showing that life after divorce could be better than life during marriage. Local news picked up the story. I did a few television interviews. The nonprofit I designed for asked me to speak at their fundraising gala. My business got more publicity than I could have imagined. But the best part, the part that felt like true poetic justice, was what happened to Brandon. According to Tanya, he saw the article. Even though I hadn't used his name, people in our circles knew exactly who I was talking about. His coworkers at the insurance company found it. His parents read it. People from his old job at Patterson Pharmaceuticals shared it. His current girlfriend, a woman he'd been dating for a few months, read the article and immediately broke up with him. She told Tanya she had no interest in being with someone capable of that kind of cruelty and deception. He's furious, Tanya told me. He called me screaming about how you're trying to ruin his life. I told him he ruined his own life and you're just telling the truth about it. How did he respond? He hung up on me. We haven't talked since. Mom and Dad are done with him too. They told him he's embarrassed the family enough, and they don't want to hear from him until he takes responsibility for his actions. I felt a twinge of something. Not guilt exactly, but an acknowledgement that consequences could be harsh. Do you think I went too far with the article? Absolutely not. You told your story. You didn't lie or exaggerate. If he can't handle people knowing what he did, maybe he shouldn't have done it in the first place. The article opened new doors professionally. I was invited to speak at more conferences, to participate in panels about women in business, to mentor young entrepreneurs. Elevation Design Company became known not just for good work, but for the story behind it. But the personal impact was even greater. Women reached out asking for advice about leaving bad marriages. Some asked if I could recommend divorce attorneys. Others just wanted to share their stories with someone who understood. I started a blog posting weekly about business, life after divorce, finding your strength. It became another way to help people, to turn my pain into something useful. In November, I was invited to the White House for a small business initiative event. I got to meet the president, shake hands, talk about women's entrepreneurship. It was surreal and wonderful, and proof that my story had reached farther than I ever imagined. Nathaniel went with me to Washington. We stayed at a nice hotel, made a weekend of it, toured monuments and museums. On our last evening, we had dinner at a rooftop restaurant with a view of the city lights. You've come so far, he said. Watching you grow this past year and a half has been incredible. I couldn't have done it without support. Without you. You would have done it with or without me. I'm just glad I got to be part of it. I looked at this man who'd been patient and kind and supportive through everything, who'd moved back from Seattle to be near me, who celebrated my successes without jealousy or competition, who made me feel safe and valued and loved. I'm ready, I said suddenly. Ready for what? Ready for more with you. I'd spent the past year and a half focused on building my business, on proving I could stand on my own, and I have. But I don't want to stand alone forever. I want partnership. Real partnership, the kind I never had with Brandon. He smiled, that warm, genuine smile that made his whole face light up. I want that too. I'm not saying we have to rush into anything, but I'm saying I can see a future with you. A real one. He reached across the table and took my hand. I can see it too. We sat there on that rooftop, the city spread out below us, and I felt like everything had finally come full circle. I'd started this journey broken and humiliated. Now I was whole and strong. I'd lost a marriage that was toxic. Now I'd found a relationship that was healthy. I thought my life was ending. Instead, it was just beginning. December 25th arrived, 2 years to the day after Brandon slapped me in front of my family. I woke up in my house, my completely redecorated house that held no memories of him anymore, and felt genuinely excited about the day ahead. I was hosting Christmas dinner again. Not because I was trying to recreate what happened 2 years ago, but because I wanted to replace that horrible memory with a beautiful one. I wanted to prove to myself and everyone I loved that this holiday could be joyful again. I'd spent the past week preparing, but this time it felt fun rather than stressful. Nathaniel helped me cook. His kids were coming along with my whole family, Nora and her partner Tanya and several friends from work. 20 people total, all people who genuinely cared about me. I wore a bright blue dress, my hair styled in soft curls, feeling festive and happy. Nathaniel wore a red sweater I'd given him as an early present. We moved around my kitchen together like a team, laughing and sampling food and generally enjoying ourselves. People started arriving at 2 o'clock. My parents brought wine and flowers. Jerome brought his famous mac and cheese. My grandmother brought her sweet potato pie. Nathaniel's kids brought handmade place cards they decorated. Everyone gathered in my living room, talking and laughing. The kids played games. The adults caught up. It felt warm and genuine and nothing like 2 years ago. At 4 o'clock, I called everyone to the table. We squeezed in, chairs touching, platters covering every inch of the table. My father said grace, thanking God for family, for second chances, for growth and healing. As we ate, I looked around the table. My mother chatting with Nathaniel's daughter about school. Jerome and Nathaniel discussing sports. Tanya helping the younger kids with their food. Nora telling a funny story that had everyone laughing. This was my family now. Not all by blood but all by choice. All people who'd supported me through the hardest time of my life, and celebrated with me as I rebuilt. After dinner, as we sat around with coffee and pie, Nathaniel stood up and tapped his glass. "I'd like to say something," he announced. The room quieted. 2 years ago, Simone experienced one of the worst days of her life in this very house. I wasn't there, but I've heard the story. I've seen the strength it took for her to not just survive that day, but to build something incredible from it. He looked at me. "You took pain and turned it into purpose. You took humiliation and turned it into motivation. You proved that one person's cruelty doesn't have to define your future." People nodded, some wiping their eyes. "But what I admire most about you," Nathaniel continued, "is that you didn't let that experience make you bitter or closed off. You stayed open to love, to trust, to building something new. And I'm grateful every day that you let me be part of this new chapter." He pulled a small box from his pocket. My heart stopped. He got down on one knee next to my chair. "Simone Richardson, you are the strongest, most talented, most incredible woman I've ever known. You inspire me every day. I don't want to spend another day without you being my partner in every sense of the word. Will you marry me?" I couldn't speak. Tears streamed down my face. Everyone around the table held their breath. "Yes," I finally managed. "Yes, of course, yes." He slipped a beautiful ring onto my finger, and everyone erupted in cheers and applause. My mother cried happy tears. Jerome hugged us both. Nathaniel's kids jumped up and down with excitement. We kissed and it felt perfect. Nothing like my first marriage. Nothing like the proposal from Brandon that I'd once thought was romantic. This was real and solid and based on knowing each other fully, flaws and all. Later that evening, after most people had left and we were cleaning up, Nathaniel and I stood in the kitchen where 2 years ago I'd stood alone and devastated. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Happier than I ever imagined possible. No regrets about us?" "None." "About what happened with Brandon?" "Honestly, no. If he hadn't done what he did, I might have stayed in that marriage for years. I might never have started my business. I might never have found you. Everything terrible that happened led me here, to this moment, to this life. How can I regret that?" He pulled me close. "You're remarkable. I'm resilient. There's a difference." I thought about Brandon probably spending Christmas alone in his small apartment, dealing with the consequences of his choices. Part of me hoped he'd found some peace, some way to move forward. But mostly I didn't think about him at all. He was my past. Nathaniel was my future. My business was my present. My family was my foundation. Everything had come together in ways I couldn't have planned or predicted. The revenge I'd wanted wasn't about destroying Brandon. It was about building something so beautiful, so successful, so joyful that his attempt to destroy me became laughable in comparison. He tried to break me on Christmas 2 years ago. Instead, he'd set me free. And now on Christmas, exactly 2 years later, I was engaged to a man who respected me, running a business I was proud of, surrounded by people who loved me and genuinely happy. That was the best revenge of all. Not his suffering but my thriving. Not his downfall but my rise. Not wishing him harm, but simply not caring what happened to him because I was too busy living my best life. I looked at my engagement ring, at Nathaniel washing dishes beside me, at my grandmother snoozing on the couch, and my mother packing up leftovers. This was happiness. Real earned hard-won happiness. And it was mine. 2 years ago I thought my life was ending. I thought public humiliation and betrayal would define me forever. I thought I'd never trust again, never love again, never feel whole again. I was wrong about all of it. My life wasn't ending that Christmas 2 years ago. It was beginning. Brandon's cruelty was the catalyst I needed to find my strength, to build my dream, to discover who I was without him. So, in a twisted way, I owed him thanks. Thanks for showing me what I didn't want. Thanks for pushing me to find what I did want. Thanks for the slap that woke me up. But I didn't actually thank him. I didn't contact him. I didn't think about him. I just lived my beautiful life and let that be the message. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that, in the long run, actually propelled you into a better life? What was your turning point? Share your story in the comments below. I truly want to hear from you.